I wanted to bring up something very special about this. She mentioned the brother's name. I know him as Imam Suhaib. Some people know him as Imam Will, other things like other names like that. But I want to draw your attention to what she said. Ammu Suhaib. Ammu Suhaib. Because he was that. And so much more to so many people here in this community. He, mashallah alayh, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to preserve and to preserve him and others just like him, Allahumma ameen. Because they take it to the next level. They're continuously making sure they have a personal relationship with as many people as possible in as many localities as possible. They make it a point to say, Salaam alaikum, how are you doing? And they remember something very specific about you and make you feel like $1,000. So that just shows you just a small glimpse of what this man has done. And I don't want to go on much longer because I know he doesn't like it for if we keep going. But just a quick bio on him. MashaAllah, but he was here, he went somewhere else, and now he's back here. So alhamdulillah. Please welcome our dear Imam Ammu Suhaib Webb. I wasn't kidding when I said very brief. And of course, I can't help myself. Hook 'em, baby. Hook 'em.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. In the name of God, the merciful Redeemer, props to Imam W.D. Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum. It's great to be back in Oklahoma. Lower your expectations as far as the speech is concerned. There's a lot of expectations, but it's great to be back home. Oklahoma is where I was born and raised. I went to John Marshall High School. I know that Imam Arif is a Douglas guy, but I won't hold it against him. The Soul Bowl. I played for Tommy Griffin, Blake Griffin's father, played high school basketball for him. And as many of you know, came up in this community. So I love to come to Oklahoma because Oklahoma, we're family. It's not like Imam Suhaib Webb. It's like, Suhaib, what's up? And that's what I like to come back to. You get tired of some of the fluffiness, and it's always good to go back to Oklahoma, to go awkiluhuma, awkuluhuma. It's great to be back. This has been an interesting few months for me of transition, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, قُلْ سِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encourages us to go and travel through the earth, and Allah says that in the earth there are signs of al-muqinin for people who are certain. And we're taught to really immerse ourselves in thinking about this world. يَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Those who immerse themselves in thinking about what's going on around them. And one of the things that I've noticed in my life over the last 3 or 4 months is this constant, repetitive idea of history. My father is an American history professor. He went to the University of Oklahoma. He taught at UCO, he just retired. So there's this history DNA in my family. And it started when I went to England. I went to England a few months ago. And when I landed at Heathrow, it was a 9-day tour. It's an interesting tour. And I think Baba Ali, I see my brother. You were there actually when I was there with Omar. This new incredible movie that's coming out very soon. And when I landed in Heathrow, the brother that we would be together for the next 9 days. He was a Somali brother who spoke Arabic, and his name was Muhammad. He was from Ahl Bayt, subhanAllah, from Ahl Bayt, from Ashraf. And as soon as we landed, he said, would you like to go see history? And I said, yeah, I'd like to see the hotel first. He said, no, the hotel is a long ways away, but history lies between us and the hotel. So I said, okay. So we went to a masjid, which actually is the first standing mosque built in England, which was built in 1889 by a community. And then next to that mosque is this old cemetery. So we went to the cemetery just to pray for the dead people, the dead Muslims, and we found the grave of Marmaduke Pickthall. Those of you who've converted, you have mad love for Marmaduke Pickthall. And then next to the grave of Marmaduke Pickthall is the grave of Abdullah Yusuf Ali. So these two incredible translators of Quran who've had an incredible impact taking, as I talked about yesterday in the Friday sermon, taking the theology of Islam and marrying it with the sociology of a given reality by rendering, of course, the Quran into the English language. And then throughout England, we would stop in little cities, went to East London. The East London Mosque is a mosque that has like a full functioning gym underneath it. That's the waqf of the mosque. It's like incredible. It's not like a ping pong table and a pool table and it's called a gym. No, it's like they make protein shakes and stuff in there. You got the sheikh upstairs and you got the protein shake downstairs. I wrote that line for real. No, I'm just joking. I still got the freestyle. So I found out that incredible center actually was founded by a waqf that was established by a convert, Marmaduke Pickthall, and Abdullah Yusuf Ali. The East London community was started by the marriage of the immigrant and the convert, right? The synthesis of the East with the West. And then we went to Birmingham. It's a sister here from Birmingham. And then we ended up in Manchester. And on the way, we stopped in Liverpool. And Liverpool is important to British Muslims because the first mosque ever built in Britain is found in Liverpool. It was built also at the end of the 19th century, post-antebellum America, the end of the Victorian area, if you will, in England. And it was founded by a guy named William. So my name's William, so I was like, wow, that's interesting. His name was Abdullah William Quilliam. And he was actually given the title of Sheikh al-Islam by the Ottoman Khalifa. So at that time that he started in Liverpool, there were 100 brothels in Liverpool. It was not really like the home of the Beatles yet. It was known for other things. And he found this large building. It's massive. It's really a huge structure, about 5 stories. So we decided, let's take a detour and go to this mosque. So we went there. And, I'd read his story, his very interesting story. His life is incredible. He was a lawyer. He was an imam. He studied. He learned deen. He has fatwa that he wrote in English in the early 19th century. In 1907, he went to Turkey because of, what happened with what would eventually become World War I. And he established his center. So we decided, let's go visit it. So we got there, and I had pictures of it, and Muhammad was like, that's it. It's a really nice building now. And I was like, there's no way, because look at this picture of it. It's a dump. But we found, subhanAllah, that the Bengali community in Liverpool actually discovered this institution that he built in a very interesting way. When they came to Western Asia, Europe, and settled there, people used to call this building where they would register their marriages and their births the Little Mosque. So I'm going to go to the Little Mosque and get married. I'm going to go to the Little Mosque and register my baby. So the Muslims began to ask them, why do you call this a little mosque? So that caused, of course, some people to look, and they found the history of this person. And that's something that we believe as Muslims, that the sacred lasts. The sacred is transcendent. Good causes last. So the good people may be akhfiya, but adharahumullah. Some people we might not know about them, but because of their sincerity, maybe many years after they're gone, we begin to discover things about them that are incredible. So we went into the mosque, and mashallah, Bengali brothers all average about 5'2". So they were looking at me like, wow, it's a big dude, man. And we kamana chen, palawachi, Bangla. And then I began to ask them questions. So I said, take me to the mosque, like where his mosque was. And that was actually the smallest part of the building. It was a very small area. And then I said, well, then what did he use the rest of this building for? So they said, well, at the top floor of the building was a rehabilitation center for trafficked women. He had helped more than 300 to 400 women who had been trafficked. We shouldn't call them prostitutes, it's offensive. They're trafficked human beings. The second floor was a printing press. That was right after the dawn of the printing press, and he had this newspaper that he used to put out on a regular basis called The Crescent. I thought that was very interesting. And then on the third floor, he had an orphanage, because if you have a large number of trafficked women in a community, consequently, you're going to have a large number of what? Awlad al-shari', children without parents. So he opens an orphanage. And then under that, he brought 2 scholars from Pakistan who he created a kutab, like we say in Arab countries, a place for memorization of Quran. And then the smallest part of the building is the masjid. Then I asked them, okay, tell me some cool stuff about this building, because this is crazy, like in a good way, for those of you who are older. And they said to me, well, he opened on Christmas Day. He opened the mosque on Christmas Day. He invited the whole city. And he used to feed poor people on Christmas Day every year. And then they said, we still have, like the Anaba. I don't know if you still have the Anaba in Norman. Like the weekly newspaper. That he had this weekly newspaper. And in this weekly newspaper, you're going to find his halaqat, like the things he taught. So me being Azhari trained and thinking that, mashallah, he was probably teaching some mukhtasarat and some umuhat al-kutub, and he's teaching these incredible texts, and he's teaching 40 hadith and this. They said, no, you're not going to believe it. So they showed me, copies of his halaqah. So one week he had wrestling. He invited the two most prominent wrestlers in the world, of course, were Chechen. And they were Muslim. So he brought them from the Caucasus Mountains, and he invited the whole city. So the whole city came to watch, Ivan Muhammad, I forgot the other guy's name, wrestle. The other halaqah that he had on the regular was cooking. How to cook Turkish food. How to cook Middle Eastern food. People loved that back then. Another thing he had was chemistry, because there was this clash. The post-industrial, pre-industrial age is an age where science begins to clash with religion. And there was this idea that Islam is somehow backward, so he brings Muslim scientists to the mosque. Very rarely did you see a purely religious discussion or halaqah. It was always, as I said yesterday in the khutbah, as Imam al-Haddad, he said that the job of the Muslims who are involved in this work is to tie the heavens and the earth together. Many people can talk about the heavens, but if they can't do it on the canvas of the earth, it doesn't make sense to a lot of people. And many people can talk about the earth, but if they're not able to tie it to the heavens, then you have like this narcissism with impunity. People become like hayawanat without purpose. Then I came back to America after that was a powerful trip, came back to America and went to Philadelphia. So those of you who are converts, you know the history of Philadelphia. Philadelphia is one of the few cities in America where Islam is completely socialized into the fabric of the community in a way that is absolutely unbelievable. For example, you could go to the emergency room and a niqabi will be your nurse. Like really, like 5 or 6. The mayor of Philadelphia, the former mayor of Philadelphia, most of his family members were Muslims. You'll get on a bus, there'll be someone with hijab. They actually have a term. Non-Muslims have a term in Philadelphia called I'm going sunnah. I'm not up on Tuesday, that's a different thing. But I'm going sunnah means that I'm gonna wear my pants above my ankles, let my beard grow, and wear a kufi. And there's a YouTube clip, you can watch it, it's hilarious, where they go up to these guys with kufis and big beards and they're like, oh no, I'm not Muslim, man, I'm just going sunnah. You can deconstruct that, because I know how we are all now so postmodern that we have to deconstruct every little single thing. But appreciate the power of creating social rhetoric that you find in Philadelphia. And you have 2 major families, for those of us who are American-born converts, which we know about, which is the Muhaymin family and the family of Imam Ahmed, not Ibn Hanbal. Imam Ahmed from Philadelphia. Those 2 families, in the last 45 years, are responsible for more than 15 to 20,000 people, I'm not exaggerating, accepting Islam in Philadelphia. Because their fathers became Muslim when there were very few Muslims in the inner city of Philadelphia. And now you have Kenny Gamble. Those of you, if you don't leave me by now, whatever that song, he wrote that song. Any song you can think from the 70s, the soul movement, Gamble and Huff, right? Kenny Gamble is a Muslim, American Muslim who has charter schools in West Philadelphia. He was the first Muslim put into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And unfortunately, I don't think any Muslim organizations, even as Brother Nihad was talking about the importance of cultural production and cultural rhetoric, where was the celebration of, Brother Luqman, Kenny Gamble, being put into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? This year we had Cat Stevens. So Philadelphia is an incredibly powerful community when it comes to the socialization of Islam and its blending into society in a very unique way. So then I said, this must be the end of my trip. I went to England, I went to Philadelphia, now I'm in Oklahoma. So Oklahoma is like my history. We'll get to that in a minute. And then tomorrow, 6 o'clock in the morning, so if I leave after this speech, don't get mad at me. I'm not going to Bricktown. I'm going home. But tomorrow, I'm going to Detroit to Temple Number 1. And we know that Temple Number 1, of course, was founded by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Imam, Malik Shabazz. Malcolm X preached in that temple, founded that temple, and then in 1978, after the second resurrection, we should all know what these terms mean because this is the American Muslim history. It's not his story. It's a collective history. And after Imam W.D. Muhammad, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon him, single-handedly, by the grace of Allah, brought thousands of people into Islam, right? I say that the move of Imam W.D. Muhammad, the only historical parallel you have to it is when Umar became Muslim. That's the impact of his accepting Islam and standing up for what he believed. And now that mosque, of course, alhamdulillah, under his leadership, although he's passed on, is now being led by that community. History doesn't leave us. Now that takes us to Oklahoma. Oftentimes you see imams like me, you think like, oh, their lives are perfect, everything's great, they don't have any problems. They go home, it's like biryani is like flies. Like flies on the plate. Thank you, Jinn, for bringing my biryani. You got like mansaf, like that tastes like the real mansaf, right? It's not how it is. Tonight, you know where I'm supposed to be? I'm supposed to be at my brother's wedding. He disinvited me because of Islamophobia, right? He actually disinvited me to his wedding. He doesn't care about Suhaib Webb. He doesn't care about you met Obama. He doesn't care about you were on a plane with Michael Eric Dyson. He doesn't care about all the things you love me for. It doesn't mean anything to him because he has been poisoned by a sea, a well of poison that doesn't, and I think we need to be careful showing these dumb people up here that are Islamophobia. This is the face, what you see of ISIS on TV, a bunch of young, dumb people, but behind them are people who are obviously very sophisticated. I mean, they're flying drones, right? That is not Islamophobia, and we should not consider those people Islamophobia. Those people are victims. But Islamophobia is the face that raised $60 million in this country in 4 years. $60 million to create a rhetoric about you and I that's so powerful and that's so, it's a virus that my own brother, when I became Muslim, for the first 2 years, my brother did not like me. He didn't speak to me. Then the next, 17 years, you know how Muslims are, sending them gifts, man, calling them, getting beat down, getting abused, but you're patient because, oh, Allah, please guide my brother, he's a dummy. Oh, Allah, yahdi fa innahu la ya'lam. You put work in. And that's something that all of us converts, we know about this stuff. We live it, right? And some of you who become Muslim within Muslim families and more practicing in your Islam, you've experienced something similar. Then finally, his heart changed. After 2 years, I kept working, kept massaging. I come here, I'm like, I'm going to his wedding, man. I'm going to buy this brother a nice watch. At least I save some money now. I'm going to take care of him. And my mother calls me in the kitchen and says, baby, I don't know how to say this. I'm ashamed. She starts crying because, your mother is your mother. She said, he disinvited you from the wedding. I said, why? She said, he thinks you're a terrorist. So what I want to point to you, history is very important as we continue to write history in this country. But don't think that Islamophobia isn't striking close. Don't think it's not having an impact. I ran into a Muslim brother who I knew. This may offend some of you. Oklahoma is a little bit more conservative, so they say. AP history and stuff. Now you understand why I talked about history. Did you catch it? Ooh. Nas got nothing on me. I did it on purpose. Say it's a little bit more conservative. I had a phone call from a brother in Boston, a friend of mine. He's not the most, I don't like practicing Muslim, not the most adherent Muslim. He goes to clubs where people don't golf. or work out. But see, I'm the kind of person, because I went to John Marshall, I didn't go to Douglas. I'm the kind of person who, if I'm with you, I'm with you. Like, when I come back to Oklahoma City, I have my friends who smoke weed, are gang members, and I still hit them up. How you doing? What's going on, man? Oh, Big Will, man, how you doing? Did you go over there, like, to the east? And, you know, because they're still my friends. I still have to care about them. So this brother is a friend of mine from our college days. I see Robbie. You call him Cameron. I call him Robbie because I know about Robbie. Robbie's got his stories. I have some history with Robbie. His wife's here. I'm not going to say anything. No, it was all good. It was all samosas and nothing else. This brother calls me, and he said, I just had the strangest experience in the world. He said, I'm going to be honest with you. I said, well, I would expect nothing else. He said, I was at a nightclub, you know, I was dancing and met this girl, and I was like, oh, God, it's the worst of the worst. Patriarchy, you know, sin in the name of patriarchy. Blame women for all your sins. Brilliant. He said to me, like, we started kicking it. Like, there was a vibe, you know. We started dancing on beat. You know what that means? We started actually dancing on beat. We could be in Dancing with the Stars. He says, then I took her out for coffee. So I'm, you know, my heart's beating. Oh, my God, I know his parents. Oh, God, what did he do wrong? Is he in jail? Just tell me. He said, then, you know, she's like, I really like you. You're cute. You know, you've got that Palestinian face. You know that Palestinian face with the chiseled, you know, mashallah, a'udhu billah. And then she says, are you pro-God or no God? Because my daddy's a pastor. He's like, hey, you know what that means. That's not a problem, actually. And then he said to her, yeah, I'm pro-God. You know, he got happy, like, I'm a converter. Shaitan started telling him, mashallah, you know, work for you. You finally got it. And then he said, yes. She said, really? How? He said, I'm Muslim. She stood up and said, this is a non-negotiable. I cannot be romantic with those people, with what they do to people. He said, man, she had her club clothes on. She was sweating from dancing, and she's like, this is a non-negotiable. The point I want to make is that Islamophobia, like Jay-Z said, there's no church in the wild, but there's Islamophobia in the wild. I mean, to the fact that it's reaching my brother. It's reached a nightclub. Muslims can't even do bad anymore. It's kind of good. But the point that I would like to make to you, and we live in the Beltway, is that it is very sophisticated. Stop showing stupid people representing Islamophobia. Show the people who got Ayan Hirsi Ali appointed as a professor in Harvard. Show the people on the Beltway, and we can talk about this, the CVE. You know, I'm happy with what the president did in many ways. Because until that time, until President Obama, and of course, there's always going to be room to negotiate. The larger voice of who we are wasn't us because we don't know how to play the game. We don't understand the sophistication. So I would not look at these people and laugh. But what I would encourage us to do is to appreciate the point that my brother has been impacted, and that a woman, it's kind of funny, kind of sad, in her club clothes, still sweating, is impacted. Now, what does that mean for us in Oklahoma? You know, people say, I bet you had a big influence on Oklahoma. I bet people in Oklahoma look up to you. I said, no, man, Oklahoma continues to have an influence on me. You know, the people in Oklahoma continue to impress me. You know, the community of Oklahoma, every time I come, there's these incredible things happening in this community. But I learned about the danger of hatred. Not only as a child, my parents lived in Watts. My father worked in Sears. The first thing that was burned down, if you read the book called The Choir Boys, the first thing that was burned down in the Watts riots was Sears. And my father told me because every time a black man would come into Sears, man, people would make a phone call. We should say black Americans, by the way. And they would make a phone call, and they would just find the nearest black American and just beat him silly. And my father said to me, like, I quit. I couldn't work. I lived in Watts. I was a student at Pepperdine when Pepperdine was in Compton. And I quit out of an ethical commitment to humanity. So I was raised in a family although the white male privilege is no doubt there. It was a family that recognized the danger of that privilege and the danger of systemic injustice and structural injustices. And then my father said, what do you think the first building that burned down in the Watts riots was? I said, Sears. He said, you're right. Sears. As we move through this lives, we learn things. And then after I finished in Al-Azhar, I thought I had it going on. I'm a big mufti. I got my red hat. It's all good. I can come back and not know how to speak to anyone in this country because that's what they basically teach you in the East. With all respect, that's why we need institutions in America. Because you come back, it takes you at least 2 or 3 years to get culturally literate again. You think Usher works in the theater. You think 50 Cent is change. You think bling bling is silverware. You have a lot of tremendous challenges. You think The Walking Dead, is, some movie from the 70s. You're out of touch. And I remember right before I left Egypt, and I left Dunya, I got a phone call from a rabbi who's a good friend of mine in Jersey. When a rabbi calls, you just got to do it, especially if they're old rabbis, because they have that voice. I'm not going to do the voice. I won't get in trouble. It's a cool voice, though. But when you hear it, you're like, oh, snap. I wasn't at the club last night. And he said to me, I need you to join me in Poland. He's like, don't worry, I'll pay for it. Just come to Poland. He said, okay. He said, Imam Majid is going to come. Some people from the State Department will be there. But I need you to meet me in Poland. I said, well, I just finished Egypt. I'm going back to Egypt. He said, no, we'll take care of it. Just meet me in Poland. It's a weird thing. So I went to Munich and just literally met him at a restaurant. Took me to the hotel, hooked it up, and then we went to the Holocaust. It was the Holocaust that I witnessed in the flesh what collective hatred can do to people. When hatred is organized and when it's galvanized, and most importantly, what we're seeing now is when it's justified, people lose their minds. I met with Holocaust survivors, man. I asked them. One of them, he said, Assalamu alaikum to me. Kan yahki Arabi. He spoke Arabic. He was from the Middle East. His family were from the Middle East a long time. The Amir family from Yemen. He's shakluhu Yemen. He's real short. I knew this dude's Yemeni. And he said to me, I blame not the Nazis, but I blame the people who were quiet. And as we were leaving, Rabbi grabbed me, and I had been out of touch. I'd lived in Egypt. He said, Suhaib, I took you here for a reason. I said, why? I said, are you aware of something called Park 51? I said, no. He said, and he grabbed me. He said, what kind of imam are you? You don't know what's going on with your community in America. And he said to me, don't take Islamophobia as a joke. Don't take it as something that you shouldn't be worried about. Because he said, my mother died here. My grandparents died here. He told me, literally walked from here to Italy with my father. And he said, we took it as a joke. In the beginning, we thought it was funny. They had cartoons about the Jews. We thought it was funny. They had magazines articles making fun of us. We thought it was funny. We didn't know how serious it was. We didn't take it seriously. So now here in this country, in America, as Muslims, we're faced with two really, really daunting tasks. On one side, we have groups like ISIS. And there's no justification, brother. No, there's no brother for someone throwing someone off a bridge, man. There's no brother for someone killing 5,000 Christian brothers. There's no brother. There's just, it's wrong. Murder is murder. وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا النَّفْسَ الَّتِي حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ. Allah said, don't kill. And that's what gets people in trouble. Get them on TV. So what do you think about it? Well, they're wrong, but. No but. We don't need a comma. Just give us a period, man. Wow, okay. Sorry about that. You don't have to clap. I'm Oklahoma. I'm just Imam Will. It's all good. But there's no negotiation with this stuff. Until now, we haven't really taken an opportunity to organize around it. We'll say, ISIS is bad. Or we'll give some fluffy talk that jihad means fighting our souls. Or, but there's no real, except, people like some of the articles Abu Majid has written, there's very few intellectual responses to this. Like, I think imams in America, we should organize ourselves, and every time one of those dumb magazine comes out, we should respond to it within a week with a magazine that looks just as slick. That needs patronage from people like you, and then it needs the intellect of people like Yahya and Imad. Imam Yahya and Imam Imad. Where's that response? Where's that response at a community level? So that's one problem, one challenge. We're under tremendous pressure. I'm on an airplane and people are talking about ISIS. They don't know I'm Muslim because hello. And they're going in and about ISIS and Muslims and Arabs and this and this and this. And then the lady turns to me, she's like, oh, hi, how are you? I say, hey, how are you doing? Oh, really? Where do you work? I work in DC. What do you do? I got a story for you. And by the end of the plane ride, she was almost like, the penitent Catholic. On Saturday, Friday night, they know what they were doing. So they go to church on Saturday. Remember that? It's like, I'm going to get a lot of forgiveness. And she said to me, my apology is I never took the time to know you people. And I said, my apology is I never took the time to know you. Then on the other end, we have what can only be categorized as hatred. It's bigotry. I don't like islamophobia. I like calling it bigotry and racism because it has reached a structural level, by the way. It is bigotry and it is racism. And we can learn a lot from the older American communities about dealing with structural injustice. But let me just give you a practical thing, because till now, without groups like CAIR, we don't really organize properly around rebuttaling this stuff. And I know that Nihad will tell you, this is the tip of the iceberg. This is the tip of the iceberg. The real work that he would love to do, the dreams and aspirations and visions that these brothers and sisters have, we're really not ready for it yet. We're still in the D League. But let me ask you to do something. Go home tonight. Go on Amazon. All of us have Amazon accounts, right? Amazon accounts, and never think about preserving rainforests. Says a lot about us. Go on Amazon, search Islam under books, Kindle, whatever you read. You're going to find at least 25 books written by Robert Spencer. Robert Spencer has a weekly tafsir now, man. No, it's not funny. Like, he has a weekly tafsir. My brother listens to that tafsir. I'm not going to a wedding. It's not like easy, like you don't go to your brother's wedding, oh, mashallah. No, I'm not an avatar. I'm a person who feels and hurts and would love to be at his brother's wedding. I don't want to live a Tyler Perry movie. Well, actually, that'd be better. At least I can show up in a coffin. But we hurt. We suffer from this. Go and search Robert Spencer. You're going to find about 25 books. Every one of them has 5 stars. Why don't y'all get on there and put 1 star? Here's our response. Oh, well, I didn't read it. Who cares? This is war, man. This is metaphorical war. This is strategic war. Oh, but should I read them all first? Because I don't want to be a liar. That's you. But let Nu'man Ali Khan put a book up on Amazon.com. I bet you they will galvanize at least 300 to 400 people to put 1 star in that joint. And not one of them read it. So tonight, when you go home, go on Amazon.com. Write a review. This is the worst book I've ever read in my life. This is blatant racism. This is just a bad book. Don't say, I'm a Muslim. No, I wouldn't do that at all. I'd be like, I'm from Oklahoma. Nobody, oh, Imam Suhaib Webb told me to come here, like write this bad review. And no. This book is bakwas. This book is trash. Wow, I never knew that such hatred could be allowed in this country. You don't need CAIR to do that. You don't need Imam Suhaib to do that. You just need to do it. So that's why it's important to support CAIR, because those are the small battles, but the big battles, some of the things that I've seen, trying to get clearance to get into government meetings, hurdle after hurdle after hurdle. My experience with Fox News, all of you, I appreciate the support. Megan Kelly, at least she called me cute, right? I asked her out, she refused. Halal interfaith, we could have gone to kebab and curry. And I told her Usher's confession turned 14, 10 years old. She refused. But I experienced it. I was traveling, and Nihad called me the next morning. Are you aware of what's going on? No. He said, you didn't see what they said about you on Fox News last night? I was like, absolutely not. He said, they brought this dude, Kenneth Spronsberg. We all know it's Kenneth Spronsberg, right? Kenneth Spronsberg. And they brought him and put him behind a black wall. And he said, Imam Suhaib Webb ordered me to kill non-Muslims. My parents are still alive. But it was CAIR who immediately contacted me with a strategic plan how to deal with it. A strategic outline on how to respond. The last piece that I'll make, and I think this is a great segue from my man, my heart, my brother, he's been texting me. We're going to do the show together, I promise. Brother Baba Ali makes all the Afghans proud. Right? Iranians. Anyway, it don't matter. Khorasan is cultural production. Institutions need to change. I believe that the existing ethos, which dominates most institutions in America, is toxic and problematic. I know you say that you get in trouble. I say it with love. And I believe that the Muslims, like my friend in the club, Muslims who haven't been indoctrinated with all of the problems that you find in institutions. Is the imam on this way or that way? Should I wear my pants like this? Is this meat from here or there? Is this music? Is it, we're busy with stupid stuff. We're like a rabbit that someone has like a gun at the rabbit, and the rabbit is like, doesn't know if it wants to eat this carrot or that carrot. And it's just there on it. That's really where we are. We're arguing over these things. Once Al-Qadi Abu Bakr ibn Arabi, the great Maliki jurist, he prayed in Al-Aqsa. And next to him was a man who was moving his finger like this. Next to him was a man who put his finger straight. And after the salah, Al-Qadi, someone asked it, the guy next to him said, hey, did you see how that guy was praying? That was wrong. He had his hand straight. Like, how could you see the dude over here, man? And then Al-Qadi said, what? What? And then the guy next to him said, La, Sheikh, da kan yusalli ala khata. So that guy, he was praying wrong because he was moving his hand like this. And then they asked him, like, which one of us is right? He said, Kuntu mashghulan bi Rabbi. I was busy with Allah. I didn't see you guys. Like, there's an ethos that runs our institutions where we find a lack of transparency, a lack of turning over leadership, right? We need to pass on the batons, man. There needs to be young leadership. Look at the NAACP, some of the principles they have of leadership, very powerful. The Black Ministerial Alliance has very powerful principles about people can only stay in positions for a certain amount of time. In Harvard School of Kennedy, I was there, I went to this class, they told us that great leaders leave after 4 years or 5 years. They have people take over. We see institutions across America where, no offense, and we should have elders, and elders are part of our community, and they're crucial because the gray hair is the wisdom that guides the young legs, right? But we're not seeing like a new generation of people brought in. Groups like CAIR doing that. So there has to be a change in how things are ran. I believe that we should move towards a town hall system of governance, not a board system of governance, where major decisions are made by everybody. 70% of the people vote that the imam should go, goes, unless, 70% say he stays, he stays. 70% says we should extend the masjid, extend the masjid. 70% says we should build a school, build a school. Think about it that way. So then our women, because our young Muslim sisters tell me, I can talk to Cornell West, but I can't talk to you. Right? And that, let me tell you something. In many ways, those experiences are more debilitating than Islamophobia. Because what comes from in your house always hurts worse than what's outside of it. So changing the governance of institutions to be more of a representation of the broader community. So now everybody's voting, everybody, the youth, the young, the women, everybody made a decision. So there's no need to say this is a patriarchal community. There's no need to say we hate the young people. No, hey, you chose the imam, and if you're a board member, I was a board member here. That's a great thing, because if the imam is bad, I didn't choose him, you did. So changing how we run institutions to be more a reflection of, if you will, the Occupy movement. That's my generation, where decisions are made. وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. And the third is that we have to open up our institutions to creativity, the arts, cultural icons. You look at the Jewish community, they have something remarkable. I admire them. There's a book you should read by Dr. Jonathan Sarna of Brandeis University called History of the American Jewish Community. It's incredible. First chapter talks about one of the biggest problems that plagued the early Jewish community was meat and music and mortgages. I said, man, that sounds vaguely familiar. Second chapter, he says, the turning point in our community is when we brought rabbis, not from overseas, but we created local seminaries, 1865 in Ohio, where we started to train rabbis who no longer spoke Yiddish because our young people didn't understand Yiddish. Sound familiar? It's an incredible book. But in that context, you understand that their community is brilliant in one way, out of many. And that is that you may have a very ultra-religious Jewish community, like you go to New York, right? You have Jewish communities who practice their own law. They judicate, like what the Muslims are trying to do in Texas. But when you look at the broader landscape of America, most Americans don't associate Judaism with those people. Studies show, although that most people who are Islamophobic are anti-Semitic, by the way, they're married together at the hip. And they also have issues with black Americans, married together at the hip. They have issues against homosexuals, married together at the hip. They have issues against immigration. Where are we in trying to, coalition build with folks? But they say something very powerful. The rhetoric around the Jewish community is not shaped by rabbis. Like, I cringe when you ask me to go on CNN. Why am I on CNN? I'm a theologian. We talk about things no one can understand. Cat Williams said, if you want to get confused, go to church and ask a question. They tell you Jesus is in the parking lot waiting for you outside in the Prius. Sometimes we feel like that in mosque. You go to Friday sermon and you're like, not here with Imam though, or not with Yahya. You're like, I have no idea what I just heard, but I'm confused. Who creates the rhetoric of the Jewish community are the arts, the entertainers, and the philanthropists. We're still negotiating if arts are halal. We're still trying to talk about, is music permissible? Is it okay for, people to paint and things like that? Whereas I believe that those people are ultimately what are going to shape the cultural rhetoric of who Muslims are in this country, because they're the only people that can battle ISIS. Lupe Fiasco, as an American Muslim, can do more for Islam in one day with his voice than all of us could do in our entire lifetime because of the position Allah has given him. My father did not like Muhammad Ali, the boxer, until Muhammad Ali refused to go to Vietnam. That stance he took was so powerful that it shifted the conscience of people towards black Muslims at that time, the Nation of Islam, if you will. But most importantly, it endeared Muhammad Ali to a society that initially found him to be cocky, a little bit arrogant. I'm the greatest. People didn't really like that stuff, man, because white America wasn't ready to have a black man tell them, I'm better than you are right now, which was the case because he beat him to the Pope. So the last point I'll make is that in Oklahoma, you have a history of the arts. This conservative nonsense, this is new to Oklahoma. 20 years ago, 100 years ago, Oklahoma was the center of the progressive movement. Like, can you imagine that? That's why all the Oklahomans went to California. That's why California is so liberal now. Usama Cannon is from Lawton, Oklahoma. His parents are from Lawton, right? 100 years ago, Ralph Henry Ellison, the jazz scene on the east side, Douglas High School, the Invisible Man, right? You had Arlo Guthrie, great folk singers, people who got out of the Dust Bowl, who are very progressive. In fact, they used to say that Oklahoma was a communist state. Can you imagine? Oklahoma's we don't want to be a communist state now, but they used to say we were a communist state because it was so progressive. We were known for being wild cowboys. So the last point that I'll make is the need to allow cultural production to flourish and to understand that these iconic figures like Mos Def, Lupe, when Nicki Minaj says, Assalamu alaikum, I don't oink oink, I like it. You know why I like it? Because somewhere out there, someone's going to say, Muslims are cool. Well, oh God, but they're going to think Islam is Nicki Minaj. That's not what's at stake right now. What's at stake right now is people think you want to kill them. So if Nicki Minaj can act as a buffer between me and that, hey, handle your business. When Neo comes on the Grammys and says, Islam is cool, And the Muslims like, astaghfirullah, how dare Neo talk about Islam? He's an evil person. Be quiet. Like, why don't you understand the power of wisdom, collective wisdom? When the soon-to-be former district attorney, U.S. district attorney says, the most important book for any American youth to read is the autobiography of Malcolm X. That's something important for us to think about as a collective. Because to be honest with you, we've been riding on the cultural coattails of Malcolm for almost 60 years. Don't clap, because those days are over. There needs to be new cultural icons who are much more powerful. I met Mos Def. Mos Def was worried. Like, if I was going to tell him music is haram and this and this, I said, look, man, I have a pulpit, you have a pulpit. I have an audience, you have an audience. Your audience is much bigger than mine, bro. So I have no business telling you how to speak to your audience, so spit in the name of your Lord. And what we've done, we've created communities that incubate young people to feel scared. There's this ethos of fear that if you do something wrong, and all of us know that tonight when sisters, when you got dressed, be honest, that hit you. I don't know if I should wear this. What will people say about me? Right? We create our children. Oh my God, if they see my daughter wearing this Justin Bieber t-shirt, oh my God, what are people going to say about me? If a community truly loves you, it loves you. If it truly cares about you, it's going to help you blossom. So that cultural production piece and removing that, the mosque is not a courthouse. The mosque is a hospital. Right? If you and I don't change that, we're going to be in trouble. So I'll touch on 4 pieces, and I'm done. Quick speech, mashallah. But I'm sweating because it's Oklahoma. Someone texted me, do you get nervous before a speech? I said, no, only in Oklahoma. Because you're my family. You know, I love you guys, man. It's like we see each other. It's not like, you know, it's like, mashallah, right? But I need my bean pie in my arf, man. It's my bean pie, man. It's nothing like an Oklahoma bean pie. Number one, history. You are now, the pen is in your hands, and what you're writing here is incredible. Adam Soltani is a G. I mean, honestly, this young man, what he's been able to do, bring this brilliant lawyer on board full-time who's serving a community. I mean, in Oklahoma, many larger communities don't even have a CAIR chapter. It shows that you've got yourself together. Mercy School has just turned into like, wow, it's going to be like the first Muslim 90210 or something. It's like incredible, right? I think I saw Tori Spelling with a hijab over there or something, right? And then you have this constant desire under Imad and Yahya and others to push yourselves to new heights, and you have the patronage of rich community members who understand the responsibility they have to be the fuel, because as Dave Chappelle says, money is the fuel of choices. You have Masjid Mu'min, it's this historic masjid. All you young Muslim brothers and sisters should go to Masjid Mu'min and sit with Imam Arif and just say, Sister Manaima, her late husband, rahimahullah, and ask them, like, just tell me about the history, man. Tell me about the history of this place. Tell me what happened, because that's where Islam started in Oklahoma. Not in Masjid Nasser, not in Edmond, not in Norman, on the east side. And then understanding the sophistication of Islamophobia. I don't like seeing these hillbilly gym, WWE looking people. Look like, you know, Thunder fans. I'm a Celtics fan. I left before the Thunder started. Right? Hey, look, listen. I know how it is when you don't have one banner. I know you don't have one banner. We have 18 banners, right? You wanted Rondo, not us. I will need FOI security to get me out, right? The power and sophistication of Islamophobia should not be taken as a joke. It's very serious. And I encourage you not only to donate to CAIR, but to push CAIR to become more sophisticated and more engaged and more aware and more strategic. What kind of money do you need to think strategically? I mean, Ayan Hirsi Ali is a professor of Islamic studies in Harvard. I mean, really? Like, come on. That's incredible. You don't ask Will Ferrell to, like, battle Rakim. Why would Ayan Hirsi Ali be a professor of Islamic studies? sophistication. The third thing that I talked about was, this need for changing the ethos in the community and allowing the creativity to take shape and creating that middle tier. I call it the vital center. The vital center, the Lupes, the Moses, the Nickies, Dave Chappelle's, John Coltrane, Allah Supreme. Is Allah supreme? The greatest composition of jazz ever in American history is by a man married to a Moroccan woman named Amina. John Coltrane, Imam Zayd Shaker asked her, how did your husband die? She said, he died as a Muslim. Whereas our celebrations around the 25th anniversary of Allah Supreme, the album, the greatest jazz album in history. Yusuf Islam is inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We're silent. Look at any other religion, man. You have a guy who's like the key grip of the third Star Wars. He gets inducted to something, man. There's a big party about it. He was key grip at Star Wars. What's a key? I don't know what that is. He's the guy who held the light. We're having a celebration for him. We have Cat freaking Stevens, Yusuf Islam, and we're silent. We have someone like Dave Chappelle who ethically takes a stand and refuses $125 million because of his love for his race, for his love for his people, who said, I felt like I wasn't laughing. They weren't laughing with me. They were laughing at me and my people. That's us as Muslims. That's what we stand for. Where was our voice to support Dave Chappelle? Zayn Malik. All these young girls, huh? He ain't here, girl. Only Zayn Malik here is the one who's making kheer at the local restaurant. That's not that Zayn Malik. But where's the tweets to him to say, I'm praying for you, man. You made a big move in your life. Praying. One time I sent a text to a celebrity, good friend, who went through some changes in their life on Twitter. And I got bombarded by our own community saying, like, astaghfirullah, la hawla wa quwwata illa billah. How could you think this fasiq? How dare you congratulate this person? People don't get it, man. The sophistication needed, man. Zayn Malik says Ramadan Mubarak, that's 2 million retweets. Hello. That creates cultural rhetoric. It might not be the Islam that you want, but it's the Islam we need in the streets. The Islam we need in the streets is not the Islam in the masjid. Our sinners are their saints. One of my teachers used to say to me, awliya'uhum fusaqa'una. He used to say to me that our quote-unquote evildoers, I'm not saying that about Zayn, are the shuyukh of the non-Muslims. And I said, you know what, you're right. He said, why? I said, I became Muslim because of hip-hop. I couldn't have understood Ghazali. I couldn't have understood, Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani. I understood Islam in Oklahoma at John Marshall High School through 80s and 90s hip-hop. Because that's what made sense to me. And then I graduated from that to Malcolm. Then I graduated from Malcolm to Sheikh Abdurrahman al-Basir, Hafidhahullah. And then from him to Abu Mustafa. To Abu Mustafa to, Azhar. There's a process here. So that creative, entertainment, cultural production-oriented aspect of our community that feels so alienated. I mean, the most prolific comic book artist and writer in America is a Muslim woman who converted G. Willow Wilson. She goes to, those comic book fairs, man? 5,000 people go to meet her, and she's in hijab. The largest hip-hop festival, the Brooklyn Hip Hop Festival in New York, is ran by Fabio, who used to be from the Rocksteady crew, who became Muslim. He was Puerto Rican, and his wife, a white convert in hijab. They serve more than 20,000 people every summer. Those people don't think we're terrorists, but they didn't go to a Why Islam booth. They went to a living Islam reality. So that need for, like, our brother Baba Adi now is about to come out with this incredible movie. I've seen some of it with him and Omar. I mean, it's hilarious. It makes bad boys because it's good boys, mashallah. But the need for that, what Nihad said, professional filmmakers, artists, poets, spoken word, touching people's hearts, qawali, clothing, food, all those things that shape a rhetoric of a people without having to talk about theology, because when you talk about theology, you make people nervous. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to bless this incredible community. I am a boomer sooner, but I think we need to be fair since CAIR is here. We have also some OSU Cowboys. Well, as boomer sooner, I felt sorry for the people from Stillwater, minuscule as they may be, right? We still have to show them a little love, right? But may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue the way forward. And I want to encourage you, number one, to go on Amazon tonight and handle your business, right? Number two, continue to support CAIR. CAIR is an organization I personally have benefited from in many, many ways. Thirdly, your local communities. Imam Imad always got these black circles under his eyes. Can someone get this man a facial? Someone get him a weekend at a spa, please. And Imam Yahya, he's got like one little one now. Right? It's not quite there. But understand that they are only as good as you are. Right? Your support, your constructive criticism of them is important. I know they welcome that. But galvanizing around the efforts that you are doing here in this community, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you, inshallah. Protect your families. It's good to be here in Oklahoma. Assalamu alaikum.